Hey guys, what's up? It's Great. I got a new build here for you. This is the Poison Minion build. I know it's the end of the league. You're looking for stuff to play, you know, in the meantime until the new league comes around. So I made this Minion build that uses the Decompose boots. And usually you're not able to use Decompose boots because it's glitched. You can't use the trenchtimber and your scepter at the same time and have Decompose work. So this is the first actual pay-to-play build. In order for you to have the Decompose work, you need to have the faridune floating hoverer skin, which is what I'm using, because when you're in a hover state, it somehow works around the bug and it allows the Decompose to work. But this is the build in action. I'm using reavers. You could use any minion you want. You know, basically the minions get the first kill and then the corpses explode into a gas cloud. And the way I have it built out is it stacks 3 poisons and wither. It took a lot of experimenting to get like the right combination of skills. And in this build, it's very similar gearing wise. It's actually the exact same gearing as the speed minion build. The only difference is I have the boots on, so which is nice if you wanted to try it out. And then reallocating some passives in order to get the poison nodes that you need, the area of effect that you need. But if you see how it works, it's actually super fun. It's actually really fun to play. So it's fun to just kind of go around and use. But it does come with some drawbacks. It does have quite a few drawbacks. Like for one, it's terrible against delirium monsters because it doesn't leave any bodies behind. Yeah, so that's like the worst part. And it's really like gear dependent. And also the same thing too is it's kind of like with tight maps, because your DPS comes from a mixture of the poison and you know, weaker minions. In tight maps, they still body block. The minions still body block, and you still end up getting like having to wait. You know, you can't just jump in there. It's nice using the Queen of the Forest build for this because the evasion actually helps a lot. The evasion helps a whole lot. I've been frozen in a pack in the middle of a giant pack of monsters and nothing happened. Frozen for a full 4 seconds, just getting jumped by like 15 mobs and survived. So if you look at it here, I've got 17 reavers, and this build actually works pretty good. The reavers are pretty high damage, so it works well for a single target. And you could even do it with snipers too. There's enough DPS for you to actually do like you know, Zesh +4, that kind of thing. But it was fun to build with the reavers because the reavers have an issue with clear speed. So the poison does that. And there's a little interplay between attack. It's a wither on hit for a support gem that's on the minions. And what it does is it actually stacks 50 stacks of wither really fast. See, if you look at Zesh, he's already at 52 stacks of wither. And what those wither stacks do is that it increases the poison damage. It's a multiplier for chaos damage. So that's kind of what I use for bossing or killing rares in maps. The wither stacks actually increase poison damage, and then Contagion jumps around and spreads from monster to monster. So we'll get into it. We'll look at the build. I'll go over it with some examples and even having like a leveling portion of it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how the build works. Right now I have snipers on, but we just saw the video. I was using reavers in there. So let's go over each piece, right? So obviously we're using pretty much endgame minion gear, so it isn't cheap, right? Trenchtimber, this is like 75 divines. Queen of the Forest, the one I have is a 450. If you look at the evasion rating right here. So I got lucky with that. Everything's pretty much the same. I did get some new gloves because I needed fire resistance on here, so I had to get these gloves. Luckily, I picked them up for not that expensive. Like maybe I think I paid like 5 or 8 D for this, something like that. All the same gear that I've had in the previous build. The only difference is I have these Decompose boots. And the way these boots work is they grant you the Decompose skill, but the level I have is level 19 Decompose, and this requires level 84, right? You can get, depending on what level of boot you'll get, will give you the level of Decompose, is how that works, right? Dark Entries is over here. So this +1 level to chaos skills also adds a level to Decompose. So I'm actually using a level 20 Decompose. And all my other gear is about the same. Let's talk about some of the spirit. So we have 510 spirit. You should be able to have this much spirit if you have the 100 from the campaign. 100 campaign spirit plus your trenchtimber, plus the amulet, plus the scepter, and then plus the against the darkness, giving you these spirit nodes right here, right? And then I rock 3 grand spectrum jewels. That gives me all the spirit that I need. So let's continue on with the gear. Looking through it. Well, what else do I got to touch on with the gear? That's pretty much it. Let's look at the skills, actually. This is kind of important. I did look a lot about the best ways to, you know, add jewels to decompose for these. And these are the ones that I like to use. Certain things don't work. So comorbidity, you'll add another poison. So you can have another poison stack. My decompose is 3 poison stacks. I have 1 passive that's on the tree, and then this jewel. This gives me 3. There's one that'll give you a 4th poison stack, but from my testing and using it, it wasn't that great. And it reduces your poison damage by 20%, the magnitude or something like that. There's a drawback to it. I have magnified effect on here. Deadly poison, 75% more magnitude. And then corrosion. I was wondering what to put in here. I use the corrosion just because the armor break really helps with your minions. Right? It's all the armor break happens really fast, and everything gets armor broken. It's basically a damage increase for your minions, whether you're using reavers or snipers. I did end up buying a Prism of Belief, +2. The +3 is way too expensive. It's like 100D or something like that. So I got a +2, I think, for 20 divine, something like that. So I was like, I'll play 20 divine. So that way, if I decide to use reavers, they're at 38 instead of 36. And then I use basically the same support gems. There is one difference though, which is Withering Touch. I have Withering Touch on here. And we have to go over Withering Touch because this will kind of outline how the build works. There's a synergy between the Wither and the poisons and the armor break. So those are all kind of like interplaying together to do something. Somebody wants to buy something. The way it works, right? Supports any skill that hits enemies, giving it a chance to wither enemies on hit. Wither lasts 4 seconds. If you look at Wither, what it does... Wither applies 5% increased chaos damage taken and can be inflicted up to 10 times. So you get 50% increased chaos damage, right? 50... I think this is additive, though. It's not multiplicative, unfortunately. Because it just says 5% increased chaos damage. It doesn't say more. So whatever the amount of poison stack that's on Decompose, 50% more. We can take a look at it. If we look at this, the way Decompose works. So it's life-based. Hold on. Here we go. Poisons enemies as though dealing chaos damage equal to 39.5% of the corpse maximum life. So full stacks, this will add extra 50% on top of this of damage, which is pretty good, right? And the good thing about it is this thing scales with, you know, monster difficulty. I did make a build. I'll go over a little low-level build. I made a level build at 65, or a low-level leveling build at 65 to play this, but there's a little bit of a weird, like, power transition gap if you're playing. Like, because the way this build works, it's really gear dependent. The only way to get increases in power is through gear. Because all your passive points are being so thinly spread around, that's what you're looking for. Or like, at this level, new weapon. At this level, new boot. At this level, this, you know, that kind of a thing. But so yeah, this is how Decompose actually works. You run around, and basically you don't even have to be over the body. What I noticed, you don't have to actually step on the body. If you're moving in the direction at full sprint, it'll actually blow up the bodies like maybe like 2 to 3 meters away. So it is pretty good. There's a fire explosion damage that deals 299 to 449 if they're right on it. The other thing too is I tried this with other support gems. Like I tried Spell Echo. It wasn't noticeable if it was actually working. I've seen people put Spell Echo on here, but from my testing, I couldn't really notice if it did anything. I mean, maybe it does. What else did I try? I tried Concentrated Effect. Concentrated Effect gives you more damage, for sure. It's definitely a multiplier. It's also a good choice. You could take Corrosion out and put Concentrated Effect. I don't have it because the way I have these guys, my explosion radius is 2.1 meters. Look at it with Concentrated Effect on. So if we look at our Decompose right now, explosion radius is 2.1. All right, but if you look at this guy, it's a 40x multiplier of area damage, but 50% less area of effect. So does kind of suck. Oh, I have one actually. I think it's on this guy. It's for more potent heals. So if we take magnified effect off and we actually look at it, it drops down to 1.2. I don't like that. So maybe it might be good. It just depends on how you feel whenever you use it. The poison cloud is actually pretty small. But then it depends on the density, especially if you're in a breach map where they're all just coming at you. I mean, they're just going to go into the explosion radius. And there's another thing too. It's easy to spread the poison because we're going to use Contagion. So Contagion is really nice at spreading the poison. So let's put the magnified effect actually. Let's take corrosion off. So you can actually kind of get a look at what the spread distance is. 1.5 meters. So not bad, right? You could take corrosion off if you wanted a stronger poison, but I like the 2.1. I noticed that I like the way it feels at 2.1. So this is how it works, right? The Decompose will explode. It'll stack 3 poisons. The Wither increases poison damage. And because there's so many minions hitting, the Wither goes to 50% very fast. It's almost instant. Even if you're using Reavers, the stacks of Wither goes up super fast. It stacks up to 10 times, 5% each. So 10 physical hits. Reavers hit twice in one attack. You have so many snipers. Rares just they just melt and die. And then the other spell I have here is Contagion. This is the only thing you'll be really going around kind of casting. You'll use a pain offering like usual. If there's ever a lull where things are, getting kind of spicy, you can kind of always use this as a get out of jail free card. But the way Contagion works, this will help you spread your poison. If you cast Contagion on here, I have Hinder on here for slow, mobility so I move faster, and Unleash. I move the Unleash from Eye of Winter because I'm not really casting Eye of Winter at all unless I'm at a boss or something. So I moved it to Contagion so that way 2 or 3 Contagions can go out. And if a mob dies with 3 stacks of poison and Contagion, the Contagion brings the poison to another mob nearby that's alive. So you'll actually see the poison and the Contagions just kind of spread around with 3 stacks, and it's super fun. It's pretty enjoyable. So that's the interplay of how it works for at least this build of how I've built it. I got the corrosion removing armor, so that way the physical damage from the Reavers or the snipers can do more damage, and then they'll add Wither, which will in combination give you more poison damage. If you notice here, I don't have brutality. That's a thing too. If you look at it, I don't have brutality, and there's a reason for that. Because this Withering Touch only works on hit with chaos damage. And if you have brutality, it'll cancel the chaos damage, and you won't be able to apply Wither stacks. Right? And then you might be asking yourself, where does the chaos damage come from? The chaos damage comes from a passive node around where my Against the Darkness is. And we'll go over that. I'll show you where it is when we get to the passive tree. The other thing that you're going to need for this poison to spread and not immediately explode because your dog is around is you have to put elemental focus on. If you look at elemental focus, it cannot inflict elemental ailments. So being ignited, burning enemies, that's an elemental ailment. So you have to put this on your dog. If you don't have this on the dog, every time a mob explodes of gas, it'll just immediately burn the gas. What you could do if you wanted some more fun too, you could put Detonate Dead on here. Like you could get rid of this Leap Slam or Eye of Winter. You could put on Detonate Dead, and then when the screen is full of gas, you could just Detonate Dead, and you could detonate all the gas. You can do stuff like that too if you really wanted to just like mess around. So that's kind of how the build works. Let's go over the passive skill tree. So this is the passive tree, right? So this node right here, Entropic Incarnation, minions gain 8% physical damage as chaos damage. And it's because of this Withering Touch works without having to put Chaos Infusion or anything like that. So it's free stacks of Wither for your poison to do more damage. Then the usual stuff, Vile Mending. I actually go this way. And then I come down here. I get this increased area of effect and increased spell area damage. This actually adds more spell damage to your poison. And this area effect works for spells because I guess Decompose is considered a spell even though it's not tagged. If I used to have these over here. These three nodes. So my poison expanding radius was, or the poison area effect radius was 2.4. But that 0.3% wasn't worth it to me, so I took these points off to allocate somewhere else. So this is the way it works. I actually have to take survivability for the minions, so I have increased elemental resistance. Some shield right here. You can take shield wherever you want. And then the heroic tragedy right here. Obviously, for this, make sure you get the Olroth one if you want to play this, because the Olroth heroic tragedy, it's tagged right here. This is needed so that way you get Black Scythe training, and which converts intelligence bonuses to evasion rating per 2 intelligence. I kind of talked about that, but this is basically the Queen of the Forest build, modified to have poison on it. And then the other thing too is I have this area here. So I have this to give me more energy shield. So that way I have 7k energy shield with the full Grim Feast stacks on. Seems kind of low, but it's fine. It runs. It runs and does its job for mapping and stuff like that. And even bossing is fine. And this little section right here, you need these. This little section really helps your wither stacks, or increases the effect. So this is a dead point right here. 11% increase. 11% increased chaos damage. It doesn't really help anything. But 10% increased effect of withered. Another 10%. And then another 20. So this is 40% increased effect of withered. So if it's 50% at full stacks, 40% of 50 is what? Whatever that math is, add those two together. Your wither does a total of that much increased effect of poison damage. So this in combination with the wither on hit, I think felt the best when I added all these different like things for adding damage for the poison and stuff. Then right here, I go and get building toxins. You can go this way, get magnitude of poison and poison duration. It's just there's a lot of points. So I'm level 96. So if you want all these, that's like another 4 points that you could be spending somewhere else to get this one extra poison with 25% reduced duration. Then right here, we're allocating dark entries into our amulet. This is how I have it pathed. So because we're running Queen of the Forest, I take these dexterity nodes. So that way I can have the 100 dex needed to put Queen of the Forest on. And then I could still stack as much intelligence that I need. So that way I can get evasion rating. And this one I noticed enhanced reflexes gives more evasion rating than bestial skin for my build. There's also a jewel socket right here. So if you want an extra jewel socket, it's 2 points. You just have to figure out where you want to remove those 2 points to get this jewel socket. And then I'm going up here to subterfuge mask. So increased evasion rating and maximum energy shield. So this build is more like advanced depending on where you are in your level and how you want to build it. You can get more evasion rating. You can go down here. You can get these jewel sockets if you want, right? You can sacrifice like points from up here if you don't want these guys. If you feel like you can just be fine with less energy shield, you could take these guys off. It really just depends on what you want to do. Like there's this node right here too. Stacking toxins. Targets can be affected by 1 more poison. So you can have 4 stacks of poisons, but it's at the reduced of 20% reduced magnitude of poison you inflict. So usually things die within 2 stacks. You know, 3 stacks, you'll see things with 3 stacks and it does go around and spread. But I feel like getting these points to travel all the way here wasn't really worth it. The way I traveled over here was instead of taking these 5, I traveled down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then take 2 points from somewhere else, like over here. So you could do something like that. Depends how you want to do it. But this is how I like it. Okay, so let's go over the minions. I have the skeletal reavers right here activated right now. And like I talked about, these are the like I talked about, these are the support gems. Heft, Feeding Frenzy, Withered Touch, Martial Tempo, and then a Physical Mastery that's in here. This is how I have these guys set. So if you take a look at their stats, 16k life, which is really good. See, so 3k every second. That's pretty good, right? 3%. I don't know where all this factor is coming in from, but they have a lot of life. They recover a lot. And then I also have the clerics in the back. I have 2 running, so 2 of them are going, just healing all the time. You definitely want some resistance if you're using your minions with this at this level, just because you don't have that many passive points in there, so they're not doing that much damage as they could be doing. So you want them to have a lot of survivability. And minion modifiers. So if you look at how much increased damage they have, I'm only at 169%. Increased life is 48%. Look at their basic attack, only 13k for my reavers, but they hit twice, so they're actually doing, what is this, 26k DPS, right? Not much. And then if we hit it with a, oops, pain offering, they are at 47k, right? Double that times 2 because they swing twice. We're at, what is that, 94? 94k DPS. And there is how many of them? 18? So what is that? Do that math real quick. 94k times 18. So 1.6 million, which is like you saw Zesht, right? Fighting Zesht, killable. The match lasts, 10 seconds instead of like 1 second or 2 seconds, something like that. But it's still bossing viable. Let's go show the snipers. So I have this Prism of Belief +2, right? So switch out this. I have another Prism of Belief +2 for the Reavers also. This one costs 20 divines. So, I mean, if you don't want to play Prism of Belief archers, I guess you could actually run Reavers, and it would be just as good. It would be fun. I'll admit, with snipers, it's quicker, right? Because they're ranged, and they could all just shoot at one time. But with Reavers, it's fun, especially if you want to play, Diablo 2 style power fantasy with Reavers, because Reavers are my favorite too, and I really like using them. So it's kind of nice that they have like another use coming back. But let me show you the snipers. All right, switch all this stuff over. And they're also level 38 with the snipers without the mastery gem, because I have the anointment of dark entries right here on the amulet. And instead I'll run fork. And if I am bossing with the snipers, then I'll put in, I'll just swap this mastery gem right over here. And that's how that'll work. But let's take a look at what the stat is of a sniper. So 12k life. Their regen's less, a little under 3k. Resistances are the same. Basic attack, 55. So this is 55k buffed, right? How many can I have? What would be my max? I think I can have 20 of them. Let's see here. 22. So 22 for mapping. And what did I say? 55k? So 55,000 times 22. 1.2 million. So a million DPS. You could still boss with these guys. If I was doing something specific like Arbiter +4, then I wouldn't use this build, right? I would use it in my actual like DPS build. I want to show the disadvantages of this build, because this build does have disadvantages. One of the disadvantages of this build is delirium. So delirium monsters don't leave a body. So if I'm in a map that's really tight, like let's say I'm playing this and I'm in Crypt, or either in Crypt or Mire, Augury, I do not want to use a delirium instilled map, just because you'll be in a really tight area where the minions get body blocked. They still get body blocked even after all this upgrades and changes to all that stuff. They still get body blocked, and it's terrible. It's terrible when it's 1v1 in this little hallway. So disadvantages, right? It's not great in tight maps. It's kind of gear dependent. But this is how it works. You walk around and basically those bodies explode into clouds of gas, right? And you can if you throw in a contagion, the contagion just transfers and spreads everywhere. I'm having a lot of lag right now. See, so this is what it's like. Hold on, let's hit this breach. There's a lot of lag right now. Kind of unfortunate. There's a rare monster. So with the breach map, it makes a breach map kind of fun. All this poison gas is everywhere. So explosions that happen will blow up all your gas. I can go this way. spread some gas around. And it is nice that because I have so much evasion, you can survive. You actually have quite a bit of survivability. So spreading the poison around. So let me show you what happens if I take the MTX off. If we take this MTX off, the hovering one, and we put in like one that walks around, the Decompose goes away. It doesn't actually trigger. So see, look, it stops triggering. What you have to do to trigger is you have to manually cast. If I manually cast Contagion, then it triggers. So it becomes almost like a on-demand poison skill, which is kind of cool if you want to play like that. You see how bodies only explode in poison if I cast Contagion. So you technically don't need the MTX, but it is nice to have. So you can just run around. You can run around with your reavers, right? And then as soon as you cast Contagion, all the poison spreads. See, that's only one Contagion I've casted, and the poison literally spreads to everybody. But if you want to be lazy, and you do have the hovering skin, you just hover around, and it's just as good. With the burning ground, it kind of detonates all the gas. So you don't technically need this floating MTX to play it, but I like having it. I like having the auto cast. Man, it's so laggy right now. I don't know what's happening. Oh, dying a tornado. I don't know why it's so laggy. I switched servers. Maybe that's why. So yeah, this is the build. It is pretty fun. It's kind of enjoyable just going around and having the poisonous farts. It's really nice that the Contagion actually brings the three poisons, spreads the three poisons around. So look at how it just decimates. As long as new mobs keep coming in, the poison will just jump and spread. So one cast of Contagion would unleash, and then it affects more than one mob. If I stand right here, hold on, I gotta spread more poison. And you can just kind of go in too. With snipers, it plays a little different. So this is the build with reavers. Let's put in the skeletal snipers. Okay, so let's put in some snipers. With snipers, it's also it's actually really fun with snipers. It's actually probably easier too because they're ranged. I don't know why it's so laggy right now, but here it is with snipers. See, with snipers, it's actually quicker, but I like using the reavers. Reavers are fun. And then my move speed is about 70% because we're still using Queen of the Forest build, so you're actually still moving around pretty quick. You're still zooming. Poison's going everywhere. It's a good build. It's a good, fun build to try, especially at this, like, you know, it's the end of the league. We're all looking for something to do before, like, the new league drops. And for a long time, I guess, Decompose wasn't really working too well with the scepter. You couldn't use Decompose with the scepter and a trenchtimber in one hand, or in your offhand. But this floating MTX fixes it. So you're basically a floating auto-bombing poison build. And yeah, that's the build. So I try to make a build at level 65 with this poison build, and you can actually do it. It's pretty good. So look at this amulet right here is level 61. And if you look at these rings, 65. Right? So obviously it's still going to cost, you know, some money. You're still going to have to buy all this stuff. Level 64 Decompose, right? A level 64 corpsewade boots with a level 15 Decompose is what I'm running on this set. These gloves, everything, even this scepter right here is a +4 scepter instead of the usual. See, a +4 level of all minion skills. And yeah, I converted everything to level 65. Resistances, mana, my spirit's only 468. Yeah, so this is the skill tree, right? I come down this way. See, it just stops right here. I don't actually go all the way down to this area for this level 65 build. I only get the +1 poison. Don't get any of this stuff down here. I take whatever nodes I can get to get as much evasion that I can so I can have movement speed. I don't have it against the darkness. I'm not using a Prism of Belief for the level 65 build. Right? This is the way it looks. It's very bare bones, but yeah. More affordable. I'm not using the Heroic Tragedy either. Right? Not using a Heroic Tragedy. So the move speed for this build, I think it was 29%, something like that. So still pretty good. Level 65, 29%, messing around with poison. So here's an example. This is that same build. We're going through a breach, right? Using the reavers. Works super well, level 65. Super fun. So if you wanted to, you could play this. You could do this at a low level. The only thing is, the concept of how this works, you do have to have a good idea of how the passive skill tree works, where to allocate nodes in case you want more minions for survivability, in case you want more movement speed, or you know, more damage with your Decompose. You're gonna have to know like all these little in and out things for you to actually succeed well with it. But when you dial it in, I mean, it just steams through level 65 T1 to level 72 maps, because there's a next power jump. You have to upgrade your boots constantly, right? If you want a higher level Decompose as you level. So level 70, you're going to want new boots. The next big leap in damage for your minions is going to be level 78, right? Because that's when you can get +5 minion on your scepter. And then obviously you're leveling up your skill gem as you go. And then obviously the biggest damage boost is when you hit level 90, because then that's when you can use level 20 skill gem for your skeletons. And then I think it's level 84 for the Decompose max level. But yeah, it's totally viable if you wanted to level with it. It's not the best. I wouldn't recommend it. This is more like a niche thing that you really just for the love of the minion game that you would play.